Back here in Brussels, there is discomfort over reports the Hungarian foreign minister and the Hungarian government have allegedly been informing Russian authorities about the content of private EU meetings. Euronews' Maria Tadeo sat down with the former president of the European Commission, José Manuel Barroso, and asked him what exactly he thought about these allegations.
These news are indeed very disturbing and greatly concerning because the European Union, it's made on trust.
Yes.
Trust among the member states. So, in fact, as you mentioned, I was leading many European Union meetings, and of course with Hungary and with others. I respect all countries, but sometimes there are governments that do not respect some fundamental principles, including this principle that is not a vague principle. It's, in fact, a principle that is in the treaties, in the Lisbon Treaty, Article 4, number 3. It's the duty of sincere cooperation among member states. So if one country is now briefing or debriefing other countries on very sensitive matters, and other countries, in this case Russia, being today a clear opponent, not to say an enemy of the European Union, so of course it is greatly concerning. And the clarifications provided so far by the Hungarian government are not really clarifications. In fact, in a way, it's even worse because, if I understood correctly, according to the media reports I've seen, the Hungarian foreign minister said that he irregularly briefs not only Russia, but United States, Turkey, Israel, and Serbia on this matter. So the very fact that the government of a European Union and a NATO country puts at the same level the United States and Russia, it's quite strange, I would say. And I think it raises very important matters of loyalty among member states.
But the question, sir, and obviously you know the treaties very well, is what can the EU do about this? Because the feeling that we get in Brussels is that there are no tools to counter this.
No, there are tools. But first of all, I think I always thought this is basically political. So, and there are ways of the European countries in the European institutions to show their concerns and also somehow politically to act on this matter. So it means that tomorrow, if Hungary makes the point, or any country says, we are a sovereign country, we can do this on our own. Yes, they are sovereign. But one thing they should understand is that the others are also sovereign. So the others can also meet without Hungary.
So what does that mean?
It means that tomorrow, for sensitive matters, there is nothing in the treaties that makes it impossible the other 27, or in this case, the other 26 or 25, depending on those countries who break the rules, not to be in the same room with the others. In the past, it already happened in a way. It was not so dramatic, but you remember when, during the financial crisis, when some countries pushed for a fiscal compact, a fiscal treaty, I remember it was the United Kingdom that said, our sovereignty should be respected. We don't want that treaty. And at that time, other countries said, look, you have your own sovereignty, but if you don't have that treaty, okay, we don't do it with European as such, but we do it ourselves. There are very clear, besides the legal matters, because from a legal point of view, the European Union can launch infringements if there is a violation of Article 4 of the Lisbon Treaty. But beyond the legal measures, I think it's even more effectively, politically, we can always show to a country that behaves like that, not respecting the basic principles of decency, that the countries can move on politically as well.
So, Mr. Barroso, because this is very important, your advice for the head of the Commission, von der Leyen, for Kaja Kallas, the capitals right now, is not to wait for the clarification or the legal assessment, but to simply cut them out. Don't invite them into meetings.
No, I did not say that.
No.
What I said, in fact, not just to the president, basically this is for the president of the European Council. This is not for the European Commission as such, because it's a matter of breaking the confidence between the countries themselves. And it is, in fact, leaking information about the European Council. So what I think, first of all, they should clarify. If the clarification is not sufficient, I think in some matters, the president of the European Council can perfectly say, now we are going to meet without Hungary. It's very important that we have in Hungary and in all member states, countries and governments that respect the basic principles of decent behavior and trust. And if they don't, there should be a reaction of the other countries and European institutions.
When you look at the European leadership now, you talk about the different voices and the different sensitivities. Who is best representing the interests of the European Union on the global stage?
I know there is always that debate in Europe about a kind of a face or a...
Yes.
And I believe that's not the right approach to European leadership. The question that we have to ask ourselves, are we in Europe in favor of having someone in Brussels signing executive orders like the US president? No, we don't have. The Commission is doing its job. The President of the European Council is doing its job. And the governments, namely the governments of the most influential countries, are trying to do their job. So it's, by definition, European leadership is more institutional based than personal based, which is not necessarily bad, you see. And I think it's, with that experience of 22 years in the European Union decision making, I tell you, we are not going to get in the future, in the foreseeable future, one voice, one face, one leader. And although very often I said I would like to have, because it will be quicker, it will be more decisive, the reality is that there are also some advantages in avoiding a centralized, completely centralized leadership, because sometimes we have seen other parts of the world, it does not work better because they are only one.